So yeah, hello. I think first off was a nice starter introducing what the future of React is. So my talk is primarily around you can say two design patterns of how you use reusable code. So it's on higher order components and regular props. Now both these, so higher order components has been there for a while, and render props is like the new clean down types. It just recently come in, so it got added to the React docs just I think in November. So a little bit about me. I work at a fintech startup in Mumbai called Tripod, and our tech stack is typically around React and React Native on the mobile side. Okay, and that's why we went to this. So if you look at the entire architecture or the way you make React apps, so you can see your entire page or your application is a function of your components. So you have different components which are stitched together, and they talk to each other through maybe the state of just your app state or with the help of some store. So the entire premise is if you have to think of using reusable components, that if I have one component which I want to use in one place, the same thing with some modifications in another, and in case I could pass a sort of theme to it, so to have say an admin side or an admin view versus normal view. So that is where you have your entire component as your entire page as a function of multiple components. So higher order components is one way of which helps you achieve it. So before we get to what a higher order components is, let's just get an idea of what higher order functions are. So anyone here from functional programming who's done some bit of functional programming? So we'll know that if you want to know what a higher order function is, simple definition is it's a function which takes arguments and returns another function. Right? Simple, fairly straightforward. Arguments can be anything, the argument can be a function itself. So if you have to just give an example, so you have a multiply function, and which you find the product of two numbers. First function returns a second function, and then you call multiply 3 before. I just hope if you, this is just for an example, if you are ever told to write a multiply function, I hope no one writes it. Just say that. So if you want to use it, a real world example that you can think of using a higher order function is a throttle, a live throttle function that you write. So what is throttling basically? So if you have a case where you have a search box, and as you're typing, you're making an API call to some search, which takes your Elasticsearch or whatever, and you don't want to do something like as I type each alphabet, I make like 10 API calls. So you do a throttle where it says that execute the search after a certain time. So this is something that you can do. So you have a function which returns another function, and then you can use it in your input handler the way I mentioned below. So the throttle executes, and then it returns a new function which you can then use. So inside that, then you can have your API call or state update or whatever. So this will execute after every 500 milliseconds. So extending the same definition of what a higher order component is, if you are looking at of what a higher order function is, so what will be a higher order component? So you can say a function which takes a component as an argument and some other arguments, whatever you want, but returns a new component, basically. So if you have to write a higher order component, what will it be? So your function which takes the component returns a React component and does this. So one thing you have to be a little careful about this is the spreading of the this.prop. So what that does is this will create a new component. So when you export this, it will create something, say like an enhanced app. Now if I want to pass the foo into the component into app, that is where you need the this.prop. So you spread it inside that. So if you don't add this.props, the foo prop gets lost. So and you won't get any error unless maybe you're using the prop in that component, then you get an undefined error. But otherwise, you won't get an error saying that this prop wasn't passed. So that is one thing you could just be careful of passing, just spreading the prop subject down to component. So how did the entire idea of HOCs come into being? So I think back in 2014 when Create class was a thing, and there was mixins which we used to share lifecycle methods between components. So mixins had its problems where you had props collision, you had if two mixins had the same lifecycle method in the same state key, then React would throw an error. So this was an alternative that people came up with of using reusable code if you had to. So it encapsulates the logic that can be shared between multiple components. It gives you access to lifecycle methods. Your higher order component itself can have lifecycle methods which your children component can use. So this is like just an example. So where in the real world, if you had to use higher order components, where would you use them? So everyone knows of what code splitting is. You have say 35-40 page app, 10-page app, and on your first load you don't want to load all the your entire JS content, right? So only specific to probably the page that is being used, you will load just that. So you can use a higher order component and Webpack's dynamic imports, which is not a very recent thing, but it's not in the older versions for code splitting. So you have this is a little long, so just so you have a function which returns a same component, and you pass a state of say a component which is null, and once that's done, you render the component if it loads, otherwise a loading component which can be a spinner or whatever, a progressive loader, and then you have an async component date bound. So now the import component is something that will get passed on. I will show that to you in this screen. And so this will create basically a component which when you hit the route, it will make a async call, fetch the JS bundle, and you will be able to see. But before, while the fetching is going on, you will have the loading component that will come on stream, obviously. If you have to use it, the thing on top, so you have say two routes, one is homepage and product. So on the homepage you load only the homepage bundle, on the products you load only the products. And you're using the dynamic imports or Webpack and whatever respective loader component. So you need not have a spinner every time. So if you see progressive web apps, what they typically do, they have a grayed out screen of the page of just that particular page. So each page has its own loader component, not uniform spinner all the time. So this is one example. The next is if you're using server-side rendering. So typically in your if you use say Redux, then server-side rendering you create an instance of your store on your node server, pass it down into a JSON object, and then let the client pick it up. So if you're not using a Redux store at all and you want to try out server-side rendering, so you can have say a initial function which takes some data that you pass, and then you pass this data down to your component. So if you have to use this somewhere, that's one way of using it. So when you're doing render to string on your node server, you pass the data down to your app, and then the app picks it up, and then that gets wrapped into a component in your React router, and then on that screen it's accessible. So it need not be data, it can be anything that you want to be, but this way you can pass data. You can do a server-side implementation without a store as such. Next thing, so everyone, all front-end, if you're a front-end developer, this is something you do pretty regularly, data tracking, your events, clicks, page views, and you may use GA, Mixpan, and Heap. You have a bunch of libraries. So this was a problem that I had initially faced where when they told me that okay, for each page view I want an event fired. So I had like 12 pages, and I went to the component date mount of all 12 and wrote the same function 12 times. So one way of doing it is wrapping this in a tracker function, which say just uses the lifecycle method here, and you can pass in whatever element you want. So this is just for page mount. Similarly, you can have if you have a card component and you want to track the clicks on that, you can do the same thing for that as well. The next is so the entire point of higher order component, you need not have just say width tracking. You can have say width tracking with clicks. So you can keep chaining it one by one into another, and each component will get passed to the next function. Like though here it's just say width tracking say the home page, that itself then we wrapped in another higher order component. So this is not a limitation for higher order components that has to just be one function. It can be that function wrapped in another function, because each of this returns a component. So your definition of an HOC still remains. So this is something that you need if you like doing console.log a lot. So it's something in your dev environment that you might do if you want to keep track of what props that you have, what are the props being passed down to your component. So this uses another lifecycle method to receive props, which I realized found out that it will get deprecated soon. So this is if you were just using this same thing, and again the logger. So you have your logger component which will track your current props and next props. So just some sort of tips that if you're using if you're using higher order components, what you can just keep in mind. So avoid using the higher order component instantiation in the render method, because the reconciler, when it does it again, it does a soft check and it will re-render this thing every time. So a simple thing that you can do is export it once in a file and then just import it at the top, so it won't re-render the same thing. If you're used to using refs in your component for your input fields, so refs don't get passed out because ref, like the way you use key, it's not a prop as such. So you can have a separate thing that you can do is the things that are passed have the input ref as a separate destructured thing from your for the component, and the remaining things you have as whatever is passed. So you can then pass your refs like this, and then in your higher order component use focus or blur or whatever you want to. So probably if you're not using this directly, there are a few libraries where higher order components are already implemented and you don't know about them. So most common thing is the connect or redux. So you do connect, map state to props, map dispatch to props, and then brackets you pass your components. So that effectively does the same thing. One more thing, higher order components create a new component, so a new component every time. So you will, if you drill down the React DOM nodes, you won't see your the component name. You will see this function name that you have as the component. So it creates a new list. So this is about higher order components. So just like maybe 2-second break before we move to the next thing, which was render props. So the definition of render props, if you just think of what are props, maybe this is what I thought of it would be a good definition, can be debatable. You have an object which you can use to pass data from say one component to another. It's an object, but it can be you can pass string, numbers, functions, whatever. And a render prop specifically is a function which tells the component, hey, render this. So if I have a normal bit of this is if I have to implement something without render props, and I have say a set of posts which in the state I store the data that I get from say the data that I get, and then just normal mapping through it and then passing the post component in each of this. So this thing, if I had to implement this, I just say do post. Now, suppose you had a use case where your PM or someone comes and tells you that no, I don't want this post. I want the list of posts should be different, but the data is the same. So one thing is you can say change the this thing itself based on some condition, but then your code can get messy. And the other thing is you pass a prop which tells the component that you know render this. So you pass say render as a prop and which has access to the state of the component, and you tell the post component what to render. So something like that. So now though it just says post, now if I had something like say theme post or something like that, which uses the same data set, I can render that. So I'm just telling the component render this set for the same data set without actually changing my main post component. The next thing is, can I use children? Of course you can. You don't have to. It's not restricted to. It's ultimately a prop. It doesn't have to. It can be anything. It need not be just render. I can have children, and the children can be passed down a similar way as a function. So if you're using flow, or if you're using flow for typecasting, usually, and you say children is react.load, then this will break because the children is actually a function. So just be careful about that. So it's the entire idea of render props. It's a declarative approach. If you're telling it, okay, do this. The props collision that does happen with higher order components doesn't happen here because you have access to the state and everything of the parent component that you are doing in the render prop that you're writing. And I found this a little easier in terms of using multiple cases. You have to have reusability of your components. So where can I use a render prop? So basic funda is just that anywhere where you want to tell a component, hey, for this particular case, load this UI or load this screen or this set of components, and for this particular case, load something else. So just some examples. So all of these, by the way, are some things that are part of the code that I've written, and it's slightly modified from the exact production code, but the idea and gist is the same. So if you have a similar set of a single list fetching, and you have same thing, you have render and you pass the state down, and now in the list I want to render it based on the props that I pass in for a particular URL, and then render the UI in a particular way. So I have a list, and then this is my a GitHub URL. And it says that for this component of list, render it this way. So now if I wanted to implement the render or the view of it in a different way, I could have just passed something else here using the same state, and it would have worked, right? So this was one case. The other record is, say if you have a geolocation component where it says if your location is there, show it on a map, or a button that says fetch geolocation. So if you have something like this where you have some, you don't need an API actually for geolocation because it's there on the browser, but it's also when you do get position, it's in the same thing. So the idea is the same. And in your render, then you pass the entire state that you have as children. And then in my location component, I would want to probably show something like, say, if location is there, then show the map with the marker that you know. Otherwise, show a button that says get location. So one thing here is if you're using a pure component and you're going to use the render prop inside that, then the render prop, because it's an arrow, this function will keep getting rendered each time because of the shadow diff check. So as a suggestion, you can use a function reference and then bind it. So it's just the reference and it doesn't get rendered every time. So again, what are some common use cases where render props is done? Again, with router of React router, again, if you're using this, does use this. So this actually is a higher order component which implements a render prop. The motion API of React Motion downshift for downshift, and URQL or however it's pronounced. That's like the unified React query language that's basically. So can I create a higher order component using a render prop? So this is something that you can create in HOC with a render prop, but you cannot do it the other way around. So this is the code from, say, the width router. So it takes a component, and inside the route component that you want to render, it passes a render prop down. So whatever you pass in the width router gets passed down. So this is like a sort of merger of both of them. So just a quick glance of what both of them are, of implementing both these HOCs and render props. So it's a simple example. If I have a counter and I want to show the counter increments every second, so the same implementation on both cases. So you have a function which takes a component, uses the lifecycle method component did not, and uses say set state with the callback and increases the count every second. So you pass it in switch, which is as then the next implementation is of the same thing is a render prop here, where you have your component and you pass in the render method prop structure, and then over here you pass in the props as a child, which is say counter. So at the bottom where though it says counter, I could have then shown say counter into 2 or counter into 3 or whatever. It didn't have to be that, but this is like the same implementation in both with both the techniques. So this is just the overall idea of things, and yeah, that's about it.
It was quite an interesting talk. It was quite a quick talk. Let's open the floor for questions because we have quite 10 minutes, so we can take some questions. Anyone with some questions? Okay.
What are the reasons that HOCs, like there are a lot of negative things also against HOCs these days, given I think the same thing with render props. Can you?
So one of them that I did face one big negative of HOCs was the thing called props collision, where you have one higher order component say doing one wrapping, and then another function which wraps that, and then you pass a prop in the first one and in the second component, and the first one also uses the same thing. So that gets lost, and then React doesn't throw any error, or so it's just like as good as if you render a props dot some variable which is undefined in your component. You won't see it, plus React doesn't throw an error. So debugging something like that is a real mess because you don't know what happened. So one of the reasons why I switched to render props was because we had multiple wrappings that we were doing. So props collision was one of the things. Second thing is I think higher order components have a lot of ceremony, like you have to before you end up writing like a basic boilerplate, it ends up being a lot for just wrapping. So these were probably the two reasons I thought render prop was better. But again, all of this is just for everyone. All of this, both these design patterns are, you use it just only if it suits your need. If you have something that you've done in your company or a workplace which is working fine with say just higher order components or with render props, don't switch to the other because it's